Oh! Well, hey folks. Today I thought that we would go over the collection again. It's been a few years, but things have changed substantially that I think that it's time that one of these happened again. However, I did want to do things a little differently this time, rather than just going through all the shelves, telling you what figure is what. We've done that. You guys are pretty savvy on what figures are what. So it's not going to be just listing off everything that I own. I'm going to be talking about the displays themselves, how I've organised things, if there's anything in particular that is of note, any particularly interesting figures, any interesting stories behind those, some fun customs too. Just something to kind of spice things up a little bit. We're going a bit flashier on the presentation today. And it won't just be Transformers. I do have other interests aside from that, so there will be some Lego, there'll be a bit of Star Wars, a bit of Marvel. That's about it. Some other miscellaneous things. It's majority Transformers, but there's a few other things that I do collect. But before we begin, a word from our sponsor.
Big thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. For those of you living on another planet, or maybe in another universe, a VPN, or virtual private network, is an encrypted connection between your device and the internet. Without a VPN, your browsing habits and personal info are easily trackable by websites, hackers, even your internet service provider. And the government. Call me old-fashioned. I don't like the government knowing everything I'm doing. A VPN is absolutely essential in your daily browsing, and ExpressVPN is one of the best. With servers in 94 countries, ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address with a single click to almost anywhere in the world, masking your true location and allowing you to browse free of prying optics. Remember all those folks I mentioned for whom your private data is absolute gold dust? Not anymore, baby! VPNs are absolutely vital on untrusted networks. They protect you from malware infections, data breaches, and man-in-the-middle attacks. With ExpressVPN, public Wi-Fi hackers will be unable to read any data inside your encrypted link. Want to watch something on Netflix not available in your country? Simple fix. One click to change your IP address to your chosen region, and bam! You're in Canada now! Aren't you lucky? You can watch The Godfather. Express never holds a log of your browsing, offers a 24/7 support helpline, and is rated the #1 VPN by multiple websites including CNET, Vox, and TechRadar. If that all sounds like something you need, click our personalized link in the video description. You can get 12 months protection for less than $7 a month, plus 3 months free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. ExpressVPN. Just one click to a safer internet.
So my G1 shelf is probably one of my favourites. Any G1, in particular original G1, tends to be on the pricier side, so I decided a while ago not to dip in too much on that line and be very specific with what I put on this shelf. Someone you should be following on Twitter and Instagram is @TFUKGuide. They have a lovely collection of G1 figures and they display them in a very minimalist fashion that I find very aesthetically pleasing, and that's definitely how I model my shelf. Metroplex and Jazz were the first G1 figures I got. I picked them up in a vintage shop a few years back and I took a lot of satisfaction in restoring them. Jazz was a simpler affair. You only needed some repro stickers, which were very easily sourced from toy hacks. Metroplex took a lot longer to find all his missing pieces on eBay. I had to basically source an entirely original 6-gun, Scamper as well, his fists, basically anything that could come off him I had to find a replacement for. I might still be missing some stickers for him, but he is now physically complete and he's just a gorgeous eye-catching part of this shelf. At this stage I think I'm done with this particular collection. That being said, it's not one that I'm actively collecting. Now I have a Hound, I think the Autobots are very well rounded out and I don't want to ruin the look with oversaturating everything. I may be tempted on a Skids or a big Decepticon like Devastator should the opportunity arise, however. Now, Iron Man is my favourite superhero, and I have enough memorabilia and merchandise for him to warrant his own focus on the Detolfs. The Lego Hall of Armour is obviously the centrepiece, flanked by some larger brick-built suits, and two of my favourite armours in their Marvel Legend forms, the Mark 7 and the Mark 85. We all know that Tony Stark likes his Audis, but in lieu of a Lego R8 of some kind, I opted for a Speed Champions Ferrari. I felt that that was the most appropriate vehicle for his garage, and it helps fill out some of the dead space around the hall. I don't intend to collect every Lego Iron Man figure. Some of them go for ridiculous amounts in the aftermarket, and I'm not a fan of the new helmet design that they've been putting out recently, but I am very happy to at least have the Marks 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6 represented. I am still keeping my fingers crossed for an official Mark 4 though. I don't really go in for the Studio Series line. I have about 20 figures of a line that's just reaching its 100th, and I only really wanted to own the characters that look really, really good. Now, I absolutely love the Bumblebee film, and after having some time with the Bumblebee Studio Series mixed in with the other ones, I wanted them to have their own spotlight. Now, what started off as a cluster of figures standing together morphed into a set of small vignettes depicting various scenes from the film. So we have...
Tell me where your friends are hiding.
I'll never talk.
Is that right?
I've lost contact with the capital!
Stand back! You must protect the planet. If the Decepticons find it, then our people are truly finished.
Where is Optimus Prime? We survived the fall of Cybertron, and no rebellion is truly dead until the leader is vanquished.
And Thrust is here too, I guess. Now, you may be wondering where the rest of the Autobots and Decepticons are from the Cybertron scene. Honestly, the only ones I really wanted were RC and Brawn, only because they were so well designed. I do not like that sound wave. I don't care that much for the rest of the Autobots either. It's a little on the crowded side, but I did my best to squeeze them all in and make it look nice. I do have the other versions of Shatter and Dropkick, and I did have them displayed for a little while, but then when Thrust joined, they went into storage, and I chose to feature the better versions of those characters. For ages, I've been wanting to do a comedy within the Ascension-verse about the Maraudicons. So far, I have a vague outline of the story and what the characters would be like, and that's about it. Yeah, maybe someday we'll get round to it, huh? I won't go into too much detail as to what role each character has, but obviously Cannonball is the captain, Brimstone is first mate, and Tidal Wave is the ship itself. Cannonball was a long-time grail that I was very, very happy to find. I love his colour scheme. I always imagine he's like a robot version of Hondo from the Clone Wars. The rest of the crew I definitely wanted to look like a bit of a disparate bunch, figures pulled from a variety of lines. The Dread Pirate Crew Viacon repaints I've named Bounty and Swag, although off the top of my head I couldn't tell you which is which. Now, as I was dusting, I decided to create a little vignette with Exhaust and Chop Shop. So Exhaust is trying to ward him away from the Energon Cube stack that he's been working so hard to acquire. And yes, I promise if I do make this Maraudicon story, I am going to get Pete Spellos to come back as Skybite. Now, I had dabbled in animated around the time it was originally out, but since then all of those figures have been passed on. However, over the pandemic, I felt invigorated to revisit the show properly, and after a full watch through, I fell in love with it and decided I needed to get some of the toys again. My main objective was to get the principal Autobot cast and a select few favourites, all of which I have managed to obtain. Now, I don't remember exactly where I got all these guys. A lot of them came from Toy Food during the TF Nation big broadcasts. I remember Shockwave and Jazz were both sourced from my good friends Jay and Larry. The scaling for the Autobots is really, really important to me, so I did originally have a deluxe Bumblebee, but I swapped that out for an activator. I got the Voyager bulkhead, and since Prowl is really, really big for a bike, I display him in his robot mode alongside Jazz. I do also have Megatron, but he is far too big to fit on this shelf. Like with Generation 1, I think I'm done with this shelf for now. I'm not actively hunting any particular characters, but maybe one day if I do find space to display Megatron with everyone, I might also find some space for a Blur or a Rodimus. My modern G2 collection is not huge, but I did want them to be distinct from the modern G1 figures, so I granted them a little space on the Detolfs. There's not a lot to say about them. The main thing of note is that obviously Megatron does not have his original head. That is being used on my Shattered Glass Megatron. I quite like that the versions of Prime and Megatron that I've got are in the unreleased G2 Combat Hero colours. It makes them stand out a little bit more. I kind of prefer those over what actually came out. I felt like the Spy Changers could share the space with them as well. They are technically Generation 2, because they are repaints of the G2 GoBots. I bought them alongside RID Ruination, more on him later. Just because I'd never experienced them before, I wanted to give them a try, and they're great fun. They're lovely little pocket toys. The Fall of Cybertron Dinobot designs are my absolute favourite versions of these Jurassic jerks. They look so hardcore, it's like night and day between them and the goofy G1 designs, and so owning the Planet X offerings was not a hard decision. Part of the reason they're all in beast mode is because of the shelf height, but it also helps them stand out in a display that is primarily robot modes. Obviously the elephant in the room, or in this case Velociraptor, is Little Slash, the only official Dinobot here. I set up this little vignette to sort of depict her as the newest Dinobot member with her 4 parents showing her the ropes on being a Dinobot. I don't actually own a Snarl. I used to, but both of them broke in the exact same place, so he's just not participating in the group screaming session. The Planet X Dinobots are not toys, they are definitely, third-party collector's items. They are very sharp in some places, but it's worth having them for just how good they look. Now, I've never really been one for collecting specific characters and displaying them together, but I really wanted to put my RAD Optimus Prime on show, and this seemed like a good organic way to do it. I don't really have a favourite character, but nobody can say they dislike Optimus Prime, so I guess that's my favourite, and it made sense for him to be the focus of this shelf. The RAD Prime was from my buddy Max along with some of the Autobot cars. He's seen better days, but he is really great, although as soon as I get my hands on a yellow Sam's Club Optimus, I'm afraid this man is probably going into storage. Sorry Max. Movie Leader Prime wasn't really squishing onto the movie shelf, and I have another one on display, again more on that one later, so he's found a home here too. My personal favourite though is the Cybertron Galaxy Force Optimus Prime. I am such a huge sucker for Optimus in red and black, and when I found this guy on the toy food table at TFN 2017 for £50, there was no way in hell that I was passing that up, especially since all that money is going to charity. I think he's complete, maybe he's missing a missile or two, but he's just stunning and he's so much fun to play with. This, along with the G1 shelf, is probably one of my favourite shelves to just stare at and take in. There's not much to really say about the Wreckers, to be honest. I like the comic books, but I wouldn't say they're a favourite group of mine. It's more a case of I recognise them as an iconic team, and so mixing them in with regular Autobots just seems wrong. That being said, I am elated to have both Topspin and Twin Twist in the collection here. I managed to pick up Topspin and Twin Twist from TF Nation 2017 for retail price, luckily, way before the aftermarket prices went absolutely insane for Twin Twist. And you will of course recognise Mech Ideas Gauntlet, aka the original Ascension vs Iron Fist. He is retired from acting now due to a broken leg joint and general old age, but he served us incredibly well. I'm doing the combiner shelves together because they are pretty much the same theme, just different factions. Normally I'd have all the teams in their Gestalt modes, but I felt like giving the individual aerial bots and Technobots the spotlight for now, especially the Technobots. I love how the Unite Warriors figures look in their robot modes. You may be wondering where Skydive is and why Shatterglass Starscream is in his place. Skydive exploded. He'd been sitting in combined mode for ages, so when I decided to take Superion apart, the pin inside his leg snapped. Devastator is so tall that I had to remove one of the Detolf shells to fit him in properly. I think he might be the biggest Transformer that I own. I've noticed as well that I'm starting to collect a couple of Bruticuses. Brutici? What's the plural there? I think Larry's fascination with Bruticus is rubbing off on me. The Superlink Bruticus on the shelf there is a new addition, he's not always been there. He just came from Canada, from Mason, so thanks very much Mason for that. He's great fun. He's not a perfect toy, very limited in his engineering due to him being from 2004, but still really, really cool. I also popped in a couple of Legends and Core class figures just to help sell the scale a little bit. Eris Coulter and Gigawatt are here mainly for spacing reasons, they don't really have anywhere else to go, but it's nice to highlight them a little bit. So the movies cover a few shelves that I'm going to tackle just all in one segment. Now this shelf covers a few of the higher end bots. So we've got 3A Bumblebee, MPM Starscream, and a couple of the Studio Series Decepticons. 3AB used to be on the Bumblebee shelf before it got a bit more crowded. Starscream I got for £45 from House of Fraser, and I imagine him and Sideways being the versions from the movie video games where they have a bit more personality. The boxed leader Optimus Prime there is signed by the one and only Peter Cullen, who I was incredibly lucky to meet in October last year. I also have a smaller shelf of Studio Series Autobots. These are meant to represent the Dark of the Moon Autobot cast primarily. As I said before, I'm very specific with what I collect in the Studio Series line. I only want the best of the best. So these plus Megatron, Blackout and Sidewise are all I intend to collect from the first trilogy. Now, the vast majority of movie figures that I own are the original mainline releases. I didn't start properly collecting the movie lines until about Revenge of the Fallen, and I did do a bit of retrospective collecting over the pandemic. Some favourites in here include the off-road Ironhide and Cliffjumper from the Allspark Power line, the 2007 RC and Long Arm, Hunt for the Decepticons Lockdown, and of course the leader class Jetwing Optimus Prime that featured in Transformers Uprising. There's a fair bit of Lego scattered around, so I'll keep this brief. We've got Marvel, we've got DC, we've got Star Wars, and we got some Bionicle. Now, Star Wars takes up the top of both Detolfs. There's a fair mix of OG and Clone Wars era on display, but my preference is definitely Clone Wars and army building there. I'm really hoping the rumours of a brand new Republic gunship are true, because I am desperate to have one. As you can see, I've got quite a few of the 501st and 212th. So having a big transport for them to all stand in will be very satisfying. The X-Wing I got while I was down with COVID and staying elsewhere away from my family. Just something to help me pass the time. Found it at a decent deal and occupied me for most of the day, I think. I didn't think about where it was going to go when I got back home at the time, which is a common theme when it comes to collecting, I think. DC obviously has a big focus on Batman because he's apparently their only marketable character. You'll notice a couple of mock figures within the Bat family, one or two in the Rogues Gallery as well, things like Jason Todd, Bruce Wayne himself, Scarecrow as well, and a member of the Court of Owls. The Tumbler that's parked underneath the Bat family, definitely my favourite Batmobile build. I had a lot of fun putting that one together. James Bond is also here because reasons. Now, the Marvel shelf is mainly MCU, but with a heavy focus on Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse. There's a couple of mocks of note. We got Liv Octavius fighting Peter B. Parker. We've got Vulture and Rhino, which are some original designs of mine. We've also got Electro and the Willem Dafoe styled Green Goblin and his glider, which are also some inspired designs of my own. I was a big Bionicle fan when I was a kid, but I never owned the Toa Mata, the first lot of Toa. I think I got these guys off either eBay or Facebook Marketplace for about £60. The seller was kind enough to actually disassemble them and put them back in their canisters so that when I got them, I could open the canisters up, build them myself, and I just had such a great time doing that, so I was very appreciative that they did that for me. I do also have a line of minifigures above my computer as well. There's a bunch of main characters from Star Wars, there's a few sig figs of myself, and a couple of the amateur theatre roles that I've done. We've got Doctors 8 through 12 from Doctor Who, of course, and a couple of Marvel favourites as well. Now, I don't care much for Beast Wars, and before you crucify me, that's not the same thing as hating it. I've just never watched the cartoon in full. I'm just indifferent at the moment. What I'm not indifferent to are some of the toys, because Beast Wars produced some absolute bangers. Now, one of the first figures I picked up from the OG Beast Wars line was Razor Beast. Now, who's a prominent character in the IDW Gathering comics, which were reprinted in the TF UK magazine around 2008. And so he was one of the first Beast Wars characters that I ever met. Another favourite from this shelf is the Transmetal Tarantulas, who is absolutely gorgeous. He doesn't have his weapon, but I do have a 3D print file ready to go to replace that, and the chrome on him has survived really well. There is also some third party that's encroaching on the Beast territory. Again, it's a case of I don't have anywhere for them to really go. Now, this stupid little thing is My Clone Thrust. It was a 2003 Super Deformed Blind Pack PVC figurine line. I was given him at TFM last year, and he really makes me laugh with just how dumb he looks. No real surprises with this shelf. These are, as you'd expect, Generations and Generations styled Autobots and Decepticons. There's bits from Classics, Thrilling 30, Prime Wars, War for Cybertron Trilogy exclusive, just a big old mishmash of folks. Most are, incidentally, representative of their looks in the Ascensionverse. Figures of note are my custom Earth Mode Soundwave from a Transformers Prime Breakdown, and Flatline and Smolder from Combiner Wars Trailbreaker and Ironhide converted with Toy Hack sticker sets. With the Autobots, I've tried to keep the 84 cast a bit more centralised. There are a couple of Target Masters on the left-hand side as well. The Decepticons are vaguely gathered according to teams and warrior types. The Stunticons are down a few men as they're with the film set currently. There's a small shelf just above the Decepticons where we have the Seekers and Core Soundwave. I have both versions of the Earthrise Starscream, and this one is the Coronation version. Slipstream is the Select's Generation 2 Ramjet with a 3D printed head. You'd think I'd have done more with Shatterglass by now, wouldn't you? Now, if you're wondering why there are some gaps, that's because a couple of the figures are away filming for the next Shattered Glass film. I do, of course, have the official Shattered Glass collection, Starscream and Soundwave. Poor old Starscream is in storage because he has gone very yellow at his joints and he just doesn't look that great anymore. Very disappointed in that. Soundwave is here, but I do have my own superior version. You'll notice most figures here are repurposings or customs, which is basically how Shattered Glass has rolled from the very start, but I always like to put my own twist on things. Jazz was a custom from Matt. Soundwave is an original custom design from the official Shattered Glass Ratchet as a touring van. Revenge of the Fallen, Reverb, and Adventure Bloody Knockout are repurposed as Shattered Glass Wasp and Spike Strip. Kingdom Puffer is Shattered Glass Pipes. Siege, Decepticon, Mirage, and Barricade are, surprise surprise, Mirage and Prowl. It's really fun finding slightly obscure repaints and renaming them for the SG-verse, and I do hope we get more of those in the future. And what started off as a Siege collection expanded into something that represented the war on Cybertron, so there are a mix of other Generations figures with Cybertronic alt modes in here. I quite like the pre-war setup down front with Minor Megatron and Orion Pax side by side. It's not emblematic of their pre-war relationship in the Ascensionverse, it's just iconic, and they look really good together. Minor Megatron is a conversion kit from Toy Hacks, which is really worth your time. Just above the Autobots is the Cybertronian Senate, represented by BotCon Alpha Trion, Takara Generations Ratbat, an unfinished Sentinel Prime custom, a select Centurion drone as Senate Security, and RID-15 Megatronus as Ascensionverse Trarchon. I am very happy with having the Ark as a centerpiece here. It looks so good parked in the middle ready for launch. There's no additional stickers or upgrades for it. I feel like getting either of those means really committing to owning this figure, so who knows if it will still be here in a few years' time. Anyone who knows me knows I love Transformers Prime, so of course I have a shelf for that, plus some RID-15 hangers-on. There's some really great toys in this selection. Very pleased to own Soundwave and the Arms Micron Ironhide, considering their aftermarket prices and rarity. My custom Elita 1 is also hanging out here. She's moved from my desk box into the main shelves, and she mixes in pretty well with everyone actually. Megatron is one of my oldest customs. I think I made him in about 2012. He's based on the IDW Stealth Bomber Megatron, and he still holds up really well to this day, although I wouldn't mind owning one in regular colours. Eyeing up that APC Megatron. This Bumblebee is actually one of my more recent acquisitions. He's meant to represent the rebooted version of Ascensionverse B from Season 1. The head is a design I bought that was originally based on his Beast Hunters finale head, but I made some small tweaks to give him the classic horns and help bridge the gap between this design and the RTSB. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Predaking repaint, that is Cryofire Predaking, who is intended as an RID Cryotech homage. Yes, RID. Despite being a redeco of Megatron, the original Cryotech was released as part of RID 2001. The Unicron Trilogy is a line that I just missed out on when I was a kid. In another universe, I collected tons of Armada and Energon and Cybertron when I was a lad, instead of Action Man and Lego and Match Attacks football cards. I think a lot of this is me making up for those lost moments. I do recognise a lot of the figures from that time were a bit duff, so I only really go in for figures that are decently articulated or just so batshit insane that I have to own them. Things like Long Rack and Landmine and Dreadwing, especially Dreadwing. There are way too few boat Transformers. Galvatron is such a cool figure as well. He was another one that Mason sent to me from Canada. It feels a bit weird to display MMC Nitro and Make Toys Galaxy Meteor with these guys because third party wasn't really a thing during the mid-2000s. If at all. But they are explicit representations of Unicron Trilogy characters, so I'm happy for them to stay here. Bit of a rando in the mix is Beast Machine's Mirage, my one and only Beast Machine's toy. He should probably go on the Beast Wars shelf, but he's not. That's it. If you're wondering why my generation shelf is looking so small, this is the primary reason why. Collecting the crew of the infamous Lost Light has been a highlight of this hobby. I've done my best to acquire the most accurate robot mode versions of whatever characters have existing toys, and I'm incredibly happy with how it's all turned out. I went with the Flame Toys Megatron model kit as it is the most accurate, and we never see Megatron transform in that series. Fun fact, Energon Landmine is technically part of the Lost Light crew, hence why he's on the periphery of the Unicron Trilogy cluster. There are a few obvious absences, of course. Drift and Grapple are part of the Ascension cast, so they're never really up here. I really like having this shelf right above my workspace because I can just reach up and grab some fantastic toys to tinker with. It's pure providence that so many of the Lost Light crew have phenomenal toys. And we move on to the final part of my collection, the Deskbots and the window displays. Now this is where I keep my favourite figures at any given time. Most last a year or two before they join the grunt shelves. Some of these are also figures that don't really have a place elsewhere on the shelves, so they just hang around here until I make some space. You'll notice there's an abundance of figures from my top 10 TFs of 2022 list here. We've got Legacy Burnout, we've got RID Ruination, we've got Galaxy Shuttle. I've combined them with the Botropolis Rescue Mission playset and it works so well. The Legacy Silver Streak that you see is customized with the Optimus Prime smokescreen conversion kit from Toy Hacks. There's also a couple of Lego bits here, mostly the Marvel CMF. We've got Mando and Grogu. We've got a mock Sandman from the DC Comics. I don't think enough people talk about the Sandman, just any of the fiction there. It's all so good. We've got the Star Wars Black Series Captain Rex, one of the few Star Wars Black Series figures I display. I love the clones, I love Rex. You know, if the 501st minifigures on the Lego shelf weren't evidence enough, he's one of my favourite characters from the show and possibly all of Star Wars. This weird little Starscream bobblehead thing I got from a service station dispenser. I had a few quid in my pocket and I chanced it, and now I've got this stupid little thing on my desk. On the window we got some more favourites, a fair few from the Legacy line. We've got Goldbug, we've got Transmetal 2 Megatron, we've got Skids, we've got the Netflix Prime, we've got Earthspark Twitch, just some all-time bangers on here. And up top we have some Junkions, purely because I have nowhere for them currently to stand together. With the Legacy Junkions coming out, I've been invigorated to start a collection of them. I picked up Retgar and Junk Heap for some excellent deals just before Scrapbook drop, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what other weird Mad Max looking mechs are headed our way. And that about wraps up the collection video. I do hope you enjoyed this one. I had quite a lot of fun making it. A lot of hard work. This is probably going to be the last one for a good while. I'll explain why that might be in a few months' time. Big changes are coming. If there's anything that I skipped over that you found particularly interesting, you want me to delve into a little bit more, if there's any figures that you didn't recognise, I'll be more than happy to answer any queries or questions that you might have in the comments section below. So until next time, folks, thanks again to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. I never thought it would happen, but here we are, and I shall see you guys around. Take care.